الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
ادع إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن إن ربك هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله وهو أعلم بالمهتدين.
For your family in the case of a nuclear
Traffic is terrible. And getting your
so it's a
And using advanced real-time tactical imagery.
nation's capital.
You are growing up.
do not panic.
To Islam, the 100,000 converts now is up from an estimated 60,000 10 years ago. The majority are women with an average age on conversion of 27. BBC Asian Network reporter Catherine Nye has details of the report, which comes from the British charity Faith Matters.
Aisha Udine used to be called Laura Lee. Her parents are both English Christians. She converted to Islam 2 years ago.
Islam caught my eye and I wanted to look further into it, towards the people, the culture, and I carried on studying it even after school. I was surrounded by the religions.
There are no official conversion figures in the UK. Swansea University in Wales took previous census data, figures on conversions in other European countries, and surveyed mosques. It concluded the number of Muslim converts is steadily rising. There could be as many as 100,000 in the UK. At Regent's Park Mosque in London, conversions happen every week. The vast majority are women.
Every woman or man who becomes Muslim, if you were to do an assessment, out of 5, 3 or 4 would be women. On a regular basis I come across this. More so since 9/11. People are curious, they want to learn more, and they go to the book rather than rely on the media.
Researchers did the largest survey of its kind in the UK. They found most women had adopted the headscarf, had faced some hostility from their family, and said support was crucial.
Well, many people turned to religion to help them cope in the days after the 9/11 attacks, and some even chose new faiths, including Islam. That may be no surprise, since a quarter of the estimated 6 million Muslims in the United States are converts. Delia Gallagher looks at 2 people who chose that path.
Muhammad. Alison Poole says this phrase 3 times in Arabic, and then in English.
There is no God but God.
And I bear witness.
And I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of God.
And her conversion ceremony is complete. She's now a Muslim. Moments later, she'll marry Sammy and become Alison El Gamal. But Alison, who was raised a Southern Baptist in North Carolina, says faith, not marriage, made her want to become a Muslim.
I think for a long time I've been looking for something. There's been like a piece missing. Always one little thing that maybe wasn't right.
At a ceremony marking the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, she explained why Islam appeals to her.
I think because it's much more about peace. I'm praying 5 times a day. It's kind of hard to go out and say bad things or do bad things when you're praying 5 times a day.
You have to believe.
The imam who married Alison says he's seen more American converts recently, in part because of the prominence of Islam in the news.
It may sound paradoxical, but what happens is that when something becomes more in the news, people tend to want to know about it.
Alison says she was already on a spiritual quest when she began to hear a lot about Islam post 9/11. Barbara Cardebuke, another recent Muslim convert, says 9/11 also played a part in her conversion.
After 9/11, I thought this is the time when people really have to start looking for real answers to get away from everybody fighting back and war. You have to start looking towards God.
Barbara says through Islam she found a one-on-one relationship with God she was unable to find as a Roman Catholic.
I always felt when you go to church you're praying to Jesus or you're doing Hail Marys. I used to think, well, where's God?
She says her family has been mostly supportive of her conversion. Allison says her family is completely behind her decision, but occasionally she's reminded that not everyone is.
I was walking around down near the World Trade Center, and this woman walked by, and she said, I want to just go bomb those Muslim bastards. And I heard her say it, and it really struck me, because I was like, you know what, that's me. This is something that's brought me a peace that I've never known. And it's still so misunderstood.
It's a choice she's proud of and says she'll keep for life. Delia Gallagher, CNN.
It's 1 p.m. in Mission Viejo, California, when Angela Collins answers the call to prayer. It's her second prayer of the day, and following custom, she'll pray 3 more times before the day is done.
Now I have this belief, and I love my belief, so I have to respect it and follow the rules. The rules are not easy to follow.
Angela is Muslim. She has been for almost 5 years. Raised Catholic, she learned about Islam after meeting Muslims while traveling overseas. She converted just 2 months after September 11th. A time when the war on terror was almost synonymous with a war on radical Islam.
I saw a very dark persona of Muslims in general to Americans, and I realized it was so far removed from my actual experience abroad that people had to know this is not who they are. This is not how they are.
There are an estimated 1.3 billion Muslims worldwide, and most are not Arabs. Here in the United States, while the Muslim contingent numbers an estimated 7 to 8 million, it's growing rapidly. 20,000 new converts each year, 4 times as many women as men.
In the Quran, it says that women were created independently of Adam, that Eve was an independent creation of God. And so for a lot of white American women, that really appeals to their sensibilities of equality, and it's very liberating for them.
Maybe I'll help you cook something.
Julia Roach converted to Islam after being introduced to the religion by her husband, Chris. They weren't married at the time. He is also an American.
When I found out he was Muslim, I told him, I believe, right away, I will never become a Muslim. I will never cover my head. I will never be this person. So don't ever ask me to be that person. And he never did.
But she did have lively discussions with him about religion. She was raised a Christian and said she converted after she was able to see past the stereotypes and learned about the values of Islam.
The concept of freedom and liberty of each individual person and the rights of each person, and that's all wrapped up in the theological teachings of Islam as well.
Yes, I'm an American. I'm very outspoken. I'm pretty assertive and very happy person. And it's not the typical stereotype that people see with a Muslim woman. We're going to read green eggs and lamb.
5 years after converting to Islam, Angela Collins is now the director of an Islamic school. It took her a while to get used to wearing the hijab, but now instead of being a fashion emergency, it's become a fashion accessory.
Yeah, people looked and they were curious, but they never, a lot of the times they didn't realize I was a Muslim wearing hijab. They thought, oh, she must be some French designer coming up with a new fashion.
It's not a new fashion, but maybe a new face on the world's second largest religion. George Lewis, NBC News, Los Angeles.
The Central European country of Austria is home to a population of just over 8 million people. Its history is rooted in Christianity, and indeed it is predominantly a Catholic country. Figures, however, are putting the growing Islamic population at just over 500,000 since 2010, and with this figure continuing to grow, it raises the question, what's the appeal of Islam in a Central European country whose main religion is Christianity?
We see that people have a spiritual longing, that they feel there is something missing in their lives. If there is no dimension, no horizon as to the hereafter, or where am I? Why am I here?
Ms. Bagayati represents a growing number of people worldwide who are finding comfort in the teachings of Islam, leaving behind the world they are familiar with. Many have stated that they are disillusioned, and indeed abuse scandals in the Catholic Church has played a major part in the exodus of members, so admits Austrian Catholic Church press speaker Michael Pruler.
That the church will be small in membership and it will be smaller in social influence. But I think this only highlights the kind of transformation the church is undergoing at the moment, being the great authoritative social institution which more or less has been forced upon the people for centuries.
While the UN has expressed concern recently about growing acts of discrimination and violence against religious groups, Ms. Bagayati says this is the perfect time for Islam to show its peaceful nature even more.
When I stepped to Islam, I had the personal impression that it's not something like a big change to me, but more like a step forward. This is why I feel that there is a good possibility to build more bridges between people, because we share much more than many people would think.
Each person's journey toward Islam is different, we're told, but whatever the story, they appear to echo a similar end: solitude in finding a place and a way of life they can call home. Islam has unfortunately had the picture painted of fundamentalism by Western culture, but as time marches on, it appears to be taking that idea with it and turning it on its head. The number of converts continues to grow, and according to projections, those numbers won't be slowing down anytime soon. Fabian Peer, Press TV, Vienna.
It's estimated Islam is the fastest growing religion in the capital. Meet Shireen, Iman and Tim, 3 young Londoners who converted, or as they say, reverted to become a Muslim.
It is difficult. I think every revert goes through a sort of phase of an identity crisis, wondering whether they can be white and Muslim. But Islam is for all races, and when you come into the Muslim community you realise that. As I'm not wearing hijab yet, I haven't experienced any negative attitudes as of yet. I expect that when I do wear hijab there may be some, but it's been my decision and I'm happy with it. Recently there's been a lot of new groups and online support for reverts and converts, and things like Facebook have really helped, and I was really amazed. Even every day when I get friend requests from people, I can't believe how many reverts there are out there that I've not seen all this time. It would have been really brilliant if at the start of me reading into Islam I'd met these people before.
Basically my 2 best friends were Muslim sisters, and they got me into the whole concept of Islam, and I got every book I could lay my hands on. I got the Quran on CD at the time. I thought it was going to be a lot quicker. I converted 2 weeks ago. Just literally one day a light bulb went off in my head. This is what I want, this is what I believe. My family don't know that I've reverted yet because it's only been 2 weeks and they don't actually live in England. My mum being a Christian, she may be a bit upset that I have decided to relinquish that faith and go to Islam. But I'm assuming hopefully she'll get over it and she'll understand why I've done it, and that I haven't done it to hurt her, I've done it because it's what I truly believe.
I'm 22. I study theoretical physics at Royal Holloway. I converted to Islam about 3/4 of the way through my first year of university, which was about 3 years ago. What I believed before was a very Dawkins-style atheism, sort of what I've naturally come across through my scientific background. When I first started, I thought, my God, 5 times a day, praying 5 times a day. If I can have 5 cups of tea a day, I've had a really good day. But then after trying it for a little while, it's actually really easy. Before, I'd never thought I'd get married for certain very base instincts, male instinccs that were going on. And you know, now after seeing in my new sort of light as a Muslim, I call it being enlightened now, I started to really, you know, believe that I wanted to get married, and I absolutely do, and I have got married. I have a fantastic wife, and we're living happily ever after at the moment. For me, I think I've got just as much freedom, it's just in a much better box.
But with the war on Islam still alive and well here in the US, it seems to be a different story over in Britain. According to a report by Faith Matters, the UK is seeing a surge in Brits converting to Islam. In the last year, around 5,200 people in Britain converted to Islam. As many as 100,000 have converted in the last decade. Now, while that's not a huge number if you consider the UK's total population, which is around 61 million, it's definitely notable. Of those converting, about 62% were women, and the average age is over 27 years old. And the vast majority of women who converted also changed their appearance, with a significant majority adopting the hijab, or a headscarf. Now, we've done stories here on the show how some European countries have voted to ban the hijab in public, to ban minarets. But that's not the case in the UK. Now, the obvious question really is, what is behind this high rate of conversion? Some followers told Britain's The Telegraph that they felt lost in their own lives, that they were lacking in purpose before conversion. And most Brits have reported that since their conversion, they've been living with ease in the UK, that they've only faced minimal problems from their families about their new choice of religion. So what's going on? What is compelling so many young white women to convert to Islam in droves? We're going to delve further into this topic on another program.
It's the world's fastest growing religion, Islam. The Chicago area alone, home to an estimated 400,000 Muslim faithful. Tonight, why some people are making the switch to a religion many Americans have trouble understanding. Mark Saxenmeyer has our special report.
This is the story of 3 Chicagoans, all raised as Christians, all who decided to ultimately reject that religion.
Internet is down.
Nadira Rodriguez Muhammad grew up Catholic, but found herself constantly questioning the long-held beliefs of her family.
I always felt that something was missing for me.
Ian Bushner is a law student at the University of Chicago.
I felt like that there wasn't a God.
Whitney Nichols is a new Loyola grad who grew up in suburban Streamwood.
I guess what I was really looking for was what felt most natural and most logical to me.
When Nadira entered high school in the mid-1990s, she became friends with a group of Muslim girls.
They just had this level of contentment and a sisterhood that was... I wanted to be a part of that.
Ian drifted towards the Muslim students at his high school as well.
I remember defending some of my friends at school from accusations, after 9/11. And then I started reading the Quran. I said, oh, here is a form of God that I've never been presented before.
After September 11, the interest actually increased.
Dr. Assad Basul is professor at Chicago's Islamic American College. He says the tragedy 6 years ago initially prompted angry questions, but eventually many of the curious found answers to their own spiritual questions through Islam and converted.
Sometimes, negative things bring positive things.
In fact, according to a first-ever random sampling of American Muslims by the Pew Research Center, 21% of the nation's 2.4 million Muslims are converts to the faith.
Eventually, I realized that I was looking to the Quran for advice, for direction, and at the point that you believe that the Quran is revelation from God, then you're a Muslim.
The conversion has meant many changes in their lives. Ian prays 5 times a day.
you'll finish a prayer and realize, I've just screwed something up. I've done something mean to somebody. Let me go back and correct that.
Nadira wears the scarf, or hijab as it's called.
It is part of my character, you know, modesty, and it's just part of who I am.
I don't know if I'll ever be ready to wear the hijab. I've become more modest. I won't wear tank tops and I won't wear shorts.
Whitney says she has had to constantly defend her new religion.
My father asked me right after I converted, you know, why do you want to be associated with these terrorists? And I'm like, this is what you see? Oh no! And we kind of have to deal with the backlash of those who have chosen to do something so horrible.
But all say there is no going back.
At some age, everyone must decide what they believe and live their life accordingly.
I'm Mexican, you know, I'm a female, and I chose this for myself.
If you have a personal, you know, relationship with God, whatever that may be, however that may be, then you're in a good place.
Mark Sexenmeyer, Fox News, Chicago.
Now, for a longer version of this story, log on to our website, myfoxchicago.com. You can find it inside Mark Sexenmeyer's blog.
And the thing we want to encompass today is, where is Islam taking the world in the future? And I want to start off with a few numbers here. Today, Islam is the second largest religion on the planet. It's got over 1 billion followers. It comprises 1/5 of the world's population right now. Every day, guess how many people are joining and becoming Muslims? 68,000 people every 24 hours are becoming Muslim. At its current rate, there will be 2.2 billion Muslims on planet Earth by 2050. It'll encompass 1/4 of the world's population. Islam right now is found in 204 of 238 countries around the world, including the United States. And in the United States, maybe you didn't know this, and maybe guys you have better numbers than I do, there are approximately 1,209 mosques or Islamic centers.
De cette édition consacrée à la décision prise par 30 à 70 000 personnes en France de se convertir à l'islam. Ce sont essentiellement des femmes qui font ce choix. Pour quelles raisons? C'est ce que Pierre Nicolas et Jean-Michel Mier ont demandé à 2 d'entre elles. Écoutons leur témoignage.
Géraldine est fière. Fière d'être bretonne, fière d'être française et fière d'être musulmane. Aujourd'hui, quand elle se promène avec ses enfants dans cette cité de l'Essonne, c'est la mosquée qui l'attire, plus l'église. Avant, lors des journées mondiales de la jeunesse, elle lançait des hurrahs au pape, la croix au cou. Pied de nez au Vatican, c'est le 15 août dernier, jour de l'Assomption, qu'elle a finalement choisi d'embrasser l'islam. Elle n'a eu qu'une phrase à prononcer.
La ilaha illallah wa Muhammad Rasoul Allah. Excusez-moi pour l'arabe, encore un peu de mal. Il n'y a qu'un seul Dieu et Muhammad est son prophète.
Son sens de l'orientation, elle en rigole, est aussi approximatif que son arabe, mais elle s'applique.
Et là je suis évidemment inversée. Donc,
cette boussole spéciale indique la Mecque.
Donc il faut suivre cette direction-là pour la prière.
Depuis qu'elle porte le voile, sa fille trouve que maman ressemble à une africaine, mais Géraldine se sent mieux dans sa peau.
Avant ma conversion, elle me prenait plus pour une femme française facile, etc. On va dire vraiment quelqu'un qu'on va draguer et c'est tout. Depuis que j'ai le voile et que je suis musulmane, je suis une femme qu'on respecte et une sœur.
Géraldine l'avoue, elle a besoin de règles et l'islam lui en donne. Par exemple, elle ne touche plus aux bouteilles sur son frigo. Un regret?
C'est plus quand je mange, par exemple, un plat typique qu'on a l'habitude de mettre de servir avec un vin rouge, ou même les huîtres que j'ai mangées dimanche sans muscadet, c'était un petit peu tristounet finalement, puis c'est bien passé avec le citron.
La conversion de Valérie est plus ancienne. Élève brillante, doctorante, elle a franchi le pas il y a 2 ans. On ne peut pas dire que ses parents ont mal réagi, mais ce n'était pas non plus le fol enthousiasme dans sa famille.
Je dirais pas que ça les a intéressés. C'est-à-dire que je pense pas qu'il y ait une personne dans ma famille qui ait lu un livre sur l'islam depuis ma conversion. Ou qui ait fait une quelconque recherche. C'est plutôt arrête de nous saouler avec ça.
Avant même de devenir musulmane, Valérie était choquée par l'interdiction du voile à l'école, choquée aussi par un monde occidental trop matérialiste à son goût.
Ce qui me choque le plus, c'est sur quoi on valorise les personnes en fait. C'est bien si on est compétitif sur le marché, même si on est un peu requin, un peu filou, arnaqueur, c'est pas grave, si on est compétitif, si on sait se vendre, tout est une question de commerce, il n'y a plus que ça.
Quand l'occasion se présentera, Valérie épousera un musulman. Le Coran, de toute façon, ne lui laisse guère le choix. S'ils ont des enfants ensemble, elle les éduquera selon les valeurs de l'islam, libre à eux de choisir leur religion quand ils seront majeurs.
After 9/11, Muslims across the United States spoke out against discrimination and racism they felt was directed toward them. But Islam has actually been attracting more and more Americans every day. RT's Priya Sridhar went to a mosque just outside of Washington, D.C. and found out why so many Americans have converted to the religion. Listen.
It's the call to prayer, and it's answered by more than 1 billion Muslims all over the world, including Caitlin Billings, a 22-year-old American who was raised Christian.
I converted last year, the 1st of Ramadan. My mother, she was afraid that I was going to marry someone who would beat me. She was crying a lot. She thought that I was betraying her by changing my religion to something that she didn't know about.
Backtrack almost a decade ago to 9/11.
Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
President Bush waged a war on terror, targeting extremist Muslims who were labeled as terrorists. Many Americans, like Caitlin Billings, remember that time in the United States very well.
You know, I was 14 when September 11th happened, so I didn't really know what was going on, if that really was Islam. You know, people said it was, so I believed it just like everybody else.
But as Billings got older, she decided to find out for herself. And her investigation led her to the Mustafa Center, a mosque just outside of Washington, D.C. that has become a haven for many Americans like Billings who have found Allah.
A new poll found that almost 40% of Americans believe that Muslims should carry identification cards. Despite that, 20,000 Americans every year decide to convert to Islam. These converts say they don't regret their decision at all.
It's a choice that they must think about every day. Around the world since 9/11, Muslims have battled bans of their religious clothing, profiling in airports, and discrimination in their everyday lives.
People that I knew since I was very small think that I've changed personalities because of this. They don't see past the scarf. They just see the fact that I've changed.
After joining a class to learn more about Islam, Carl Dodge also decided to become a Muslim.
One of the big jokes that I've always made is before I actually sat down in the class and opened my Quran, everything I knew about Islam I had learned from CNN, you know? And a lot of people are like that. So there were some negative reactions.
And when it comes to the mainstream media, the depiction of converts can be somewhat extreme.
That Pakistani officials have arrested Adam Gadam. This is the American-born spokesman for Al-Qaeda. Fox's work.
First, there was John Walker Lind, the Californian who converted, joined the Taliban, and ended up fighting with them in Afghanistan. And then more recently, it was Jihad Jain, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed convert who allegedly recruited people to wage violent jihad. And for many American Muslims like Dodge and Billings, the portrayal of converts is disturbing.
It does upset me a little bit because there's a lot of preconceptions people have, and until I actually took the time to open a Quran and see what was written, you know, that was my only impression of Islam, is what I had seen on TV.
And in the United States, they say a culture of Islamophobia just doesn't make sense.
It's a right to practice your religion. That's what this country was founded on. Not only, you know, is it supposed to be that way here, this country was founded on those principles. That's, you know, People that started this country were fleeing religious persecution.
I just had somebody ask me the other day, oh, so are you against America now? And it's like, okay, I'm a U.S. veteran as well. I served in the U.S. Navy. And so I do believe in this country. I volunteered to defend this country. I volunteered to, stand up for what the Constitution says.
No matter what unfolds around her, Billings says she's proud to be a Muslim.
If no one in the world wants to talk to me and be my friend, I still don't regret it. I am completely happy right now. Happier than I've ever been in my entire life.
A happiness that might not make sense to those around her. Priya Sridhar, RT, Annandale, Virginia.
Old Europe is getting less and less European these days, and that's giving rise to a clash of cultures. Correspondent Greg Burke reports from Brussels.
When you think about Brussels, Belgium, you tend to think about the heart of old Europe, a city that's been standing there for centuries, a place where visitors find lots of excellent beers and very fine chocolates. Think again. Think about one of the biggest and youngest Muslim populations in Europe.
Important to know that the capital of Europe, Brussels is the capital of Europe, will be Islamized within 10-20 years.
Former bullfighting arena in Barcelona. Bullfighting is now illegal in this part of Spain. So this arena has been turned into a business space. But Muslims would like to turn others into giant mosques. This is not Saudi Arabia, it's Spain. But Spain is undergoing a transformation. Muslims who once ruled most of Spain are returning in large numbers. In the city of Salt, parents have come to pick up their children from school. Muslims already make up 40% of the city's residents, and will soon be the majority. Muslim armies conquered most of Spain, calling it Al-Andalus. They would not be completely expelled for 700 years, the year Columbus discovered the New World. And now Muslims are returning, and polls suggest they're not returning in order to be Spaniards. A Pew survey found that 7 out of 10 Muslims in Spain think of themselves as Muslim rather than Spanish.
Sometimes the numbers tell the story. Case in point, the world's Muslim population is growing by leaps and bounds. Right now on Connect the World, we want to examine, though, the impact of a growing Muslim presence across the globe. We'll start with Richard Green, who crunches the numbers and tells us why it's happening.
20 years ago, there were just over 1 billion Muslims in the world. 20 years from now, there will be just over 2 billion. According to the Pew Forum on Religion and Public Life, the number of Muslims in the United States will more than double by 2030 to over 6 million.
Which is worse, a lie that draws a smile, or a truth that draws a tear?
Now, if we accept the benefactor, if we accept the power, if we accept an intelligence, if we accept that there is most definitely a supreme principle behind this life that has designed everything in it, including ourselves, then we must also accept that we human beings are subordinate. And another way of saying subordinate, that we are subjects. Another way of saying that is that we are obligated to some form of regulation and law. Now, is there anyone here as a human being who doesn't feel themselves subject or obligated to some form of legislation or law? Because if they're not, then I say get on top of this building and just jump off and see if you can defy or deny the law of gravity. Hold your breath for about 10 minutes and see if you can deny or defy the human capacity and need for oxygen. You cannot. Something even more simple than that. If you have any power over yourself, any power over anything, Stop blinking right now. Don't blink. Just don't blink. Or just don't think. Stop the thinking processes. Stop the heart from beating. Stop the kidneys from functioning. Stop the lungs from going up and down in the diaphragm. Just stop everything. It means we're all subject. Are we all on the same page? So the third step, after acknowledging there's a benefactor, a supreme power, and the second step, but that supreme power, definitely, there cannot be any other power worthy of our attention, our subordination, and thirdly, that if there is a power, there is a law, then you and I should be willing, grateful, prepared to submit and acclimate ourselves to it.
We see people coming into Islam in Denmark in numbers that we have never seen before. When I took Shahada nearly 25 years ago, we were only about 10 or 15 of original Danish Muslims. Today, there are thousands and thousands of Muslims of Danish origin, and every week I have coming into my office 2, 3 or 4 people to take Shahadat Islam. Alhamdulillah.
Allahu Akbar. Alla oven kommer. Vi var med här. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Allah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
Ashhad an la ilaha illa Allah wa ashhad an Muhammad Rasulullah. Allah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Now, Islam is action. These people, they are better than all of us, Allahu Akbar, because all of their sins have been wiped away. They have no sins. And we are who are sitting here, we have good deeds and we have sins. Allah has chosen them and handpicked them. Brothers and sisters, these are your family. Brothers and sisters.
Okay?
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. Je m'appelle Alissa. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. Je m'appelle Isabelle. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله.
wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh.
I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. He is one. He has no partner. I also bear witness that Muhammad is the faithful servant and messenger of Allah.
I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. He is one. He has no partner. I also bear witness that Muhammad is the faithful servant and messenger of Allah.
I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. He is one. He has no partner. I also bear witness that Muhammad is the faithful servant and messenger of Allah.
So blessed to witness hundreds of Shahada in the past few years, whether in the Philippines or here in Hong Kong. And subhanAllah, every time I hear somebody coming to Islam, it feels like the first time. Allahu Akbar.
Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh wa ashhadu anna Isa Abdullahi wa rasuluh wa kalimatuhu alqaha ila
way is connect to know Islam. Here Ashhadu Allah ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
Bismillah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah wa ashhadu anna Isa Rasulullah wa Abdullah.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh wa ashhadu anna Isa Abdullahi wa rasuluh wa kalimatuh alqaha ila Maryam wa ruhun wa ashhadu anna al-jannata haq wa nara haq as-samata wa anna allaha yab'athu man fil qubur. Takbir! 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 Takbir!
أشهد
Allah ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah.
Masya Allah, 150 na Pilipino ang pumasok sa Islam ngayon. Masya Allah, tabarakallah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah. Subhanallahil azim. Subhanallah.
Pwede yakapin.
Taas kamay.
Kung sa tingin nyo, pwede yakapin ang pananampalataya Islam dahil ito ang tunay na aral ng kaligtasan, sino po sa inyo ang nais?
Ashhadu alla ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh wa ashhadu anna Isa ibnu Maryam Rasul Allah wa ashhadu anna al-jannah wan nar haq wa anna as-sa'ata atiyatun la raiba fiha wa anna allaha yab'atu man fil kubur. Allahu Akbar. Welcome. Allahu Akbar. Allah.
Rasulullah. Sigaw nyo nga po, Allahu Akbar. Isa pa po, takbir. Takbir. Takbir.
Ashhadu Allah la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah wa ashhadu anna Isa Abdullahi wa Rasuluh. Takbir.
Masyarakat yang tadi menggelar pertobatan massal. Dalam tobat ini mereka dengan kesadaran bersama kembali ke ajaran Islam yang mengacu kepada Al-Quran dan Hadis. Pertobatan massal para pengikut aliran Al-Qiyadah ini berlangsung di pelataran Masjid Polda Yogyakarta. Dalam pertobatan yang dipimpin Budi Tamtomo yang sebelumnya memimpin aliran Al-Qiyadah wilayah Yogyakarta, mereka mengucapkan kembali 2 kalimat syahadat secara bersama-sama. Pertobatan ini juga disaksikan Majelis Ulama Indonesia Yogyakarta, sejumlah pejabat daerah serta petinggi polisi dan TNI. Para pengikut ajaran yang menurut fatwa MUI adalah aliran sesat ini juga menyatakan mereka bertobat atas kesadaran sendiri dan menjamin tidak ada lagi pengikut aliran Al-Qiyadah di Yogyakarta. Sebelumnya para pengikut aliran Al-Qiyadah di sejumlah daerah juga sudah bertobat.
Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Sa ngalan ng Allah mapagpalang mapagin. Asyhadu Allah ilaha illallah. Ako'y sumasaksi, tayo'y sumasaksi na walang ibang dapat sambahin maliban sa Allah. Wa asyhadu anna Muhammad abduhu wa rasuluh.
I was telling you about happened in Germany. I kept saying, who's next? Who's next? And when we were finished, they would say, okay, let's go. I said, no, ask who's next. Finally, because almost everybody there is not Muslim, I said, who in the audience would like to be a Muslim? And they all stood up. 1,250 people took Shahada all at the same time. Allahu Akbar.
Wusstet ihr,
that every person
dass jede Person,
who wants to be Muslim,
die Muslim werden will,
needs to make Shahada.
die Shahada machen muss.
Even if you're born in a Muslim house,
Selbst wenn man in einem muslimischen Haus geboren wurde,
with a Muslim name,
mit einem muslimischen Namen,
it still applies to you like it applies to anybody else.
das ist immer noch genauso verpflichtend für dich, wie es für andere verpflichtend ist.
Just like Salat,
So wie das Gebet,
fasting,
Fasten, Zakat, die Almosensteuer, und Hajj, die Pilgerfahrt.
So each and every one of you,
Deswegen jeder von euch,
even though you said, well, I say the Shahada in my Salah all the time,
selbst wenn ihr sagt, ich sage das, die Shahada jedes Mal in meinem Gebet,
but if you never made a public Shahada,
aber wenn du es niemals öffentlich gemacht hast,
why not do it right now?
warum machst du es nicht jetzt?
This gentleman right here
Also, machen wir das direkt jetzt.
wants to do that exactly.
Er will das auch jetzt machen.
He wants to declare his Islam in front of
Er möchte seinen Islam vor allen Leuten veröffentlichen.
Now we don't have room on the stage for everybody,
Jetzt haben wir keinen Platz für alle auf der Bühne.
so you can just stand up where you are,
Also könnt ihr einfach alle aufstehen, wo ihr seid.
and we'll all do the Shahada.
Und wir sagen alle zusammen die Shahada.
But if somebody's not Muslim and you don't want to be Muslim,
Aber wenn jemand kein Muslim ist und nicht Islam annehmen will, der soll sich hinsetzen.
stay down.
Der soll sitzen bleiben.
But if you'd like to be a Muslim,
Aber wenn jemand Islam annehmen will, dann soll er aufstehen und die Shahada von seinem Platz aus machen.
your chance to beat Shaitan.
Das ist eure Chance, den Satan zu besiegen.
And you can do your Shahada and let Allah guide you as you go.
Und du kannst die Shahada machen und Allah leitet dich recht.
And even if you don't want to stand up,
Und selbst wenn du nicht aufstehen willst,
you can say it.
dann kann man es sagen.
And if you mean it,
Und wenn man es wirklich ernst meint,
Allah will accept it.
Allah wird es akzeptieren.
Ready?
Wir sind bereit. Ashhadu. Okay. Okay. Ich bezeuge, dass niemand das Recht hat, angebetet zu werden, außer Allah. Und ich bezeuge, dass Mohammed der Gesandte Allahs ist. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah. La sharika lah.
وأشهد
وأشهد
أن محمد
أن محمدا رسوله. الله أكبر.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
سبح لله ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم له ملك السماوات والأرض يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وهو بكل شيء عليم هو الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في 6 أيام ثم استوى على العرش يعلم ما يلج في الأرض وما يخرج منها وما ينزل من السماء وما يعرج فيها وهو معكم أينما كنتم والله بما تعملون بصير له ملك السماوات والأرض وإلى الله ترجع الأمور يولج الليل في النهار ويولج النهار في الليل وهو عليم بذات الصدور. آمنوا بالله ورسوله وأنفقوا مما جعلكم مستخلفين فيه، فالذين آمنوا منكم وأنفقوا لهم أجر كبير. وما لكم لا تؤمنون بالله والرسول يدعوكم لتؤمنوا بربكم وقد أخذ ميثاقكم إن كنتم مؤمنين. هو الذي ينزل على عبده آيات بينات ليخرجكم من الظلمات إلى النور وإن الله بكم لرؤوف رحيم.
غرباء 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 ولغير الله لا نحمي الجبال. غرباء وارتضيناها شعارا للحياة. إن تسل عنا فإنا لا نبالي بالطغاة. نحن جند الله دوما دربنا درب الأباء. غرباء 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 غرباء. لن نبالي بالقيود بل سنمضي للخلود. لن نبالي بالقيود بل سنمضي للخلود. فلنجاهد ونناضل ونقاتل من جديد. غرباء هكذا الأحرار في دنيا العبيد. فلنجاهد ونناضل ونقاتل من جديد. غرباء هكذا الأحرار في دنيا العبيد. غرباء 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 غرباء. كم تذاكرنا زمانا يوم كنا سعداء بكتاب الله نتلوه صباحا ومساء. كم تذاكرنا زمانا يوم كنا سعداء بكتاب الله نتلوه صباحا ومساء. غرباء 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 غرباء
اعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب وله وزينة وتفاخر بينكم وتكاثر في الأموال والأولاد كمثل غيث أعجب الكفار نباته ثم يهيج فتراه مصفرا ثم يكون حطاما وفي الآخرة عذاب شديد ومغفرة من الله ورضوان وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور سابقوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم وجنة عرضها كعرض السماء والأرض أعدت للذين آمنوا بالله ورسله ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم ما أصاب من مصيبة في الأرض ولا في أنفسكم إلا في كتاب من قبل أن نبرأها إن ذلك على الله يسير لكي لا تأسوا على ما فاتكم ولا تفرحوا بما آتاكم والله لا يحب كل مختال فخور الذين يبخلون ويأمرون الناس بالبخل ومن يتول فإن الله هو الغني الحميد لقد أرسلنا رسلنا بالبينات وأنزلنا معهم الكتاب والميزان ليقوم الناس بالقسط وأنزلنا الحديد فيه بأس شديد ومنافع للناس وليعلم الله من ينصره ورسله بالغيب إن الله قوي عزيز ولقد أرسلنا نوحا وإبراهيم وجعلنا في ذريتهما النبوة والكتاب فمنهم مهتد وكثير منهم فاسقون ثم قفينا على آثارهم برسلنا وقفينا بعيسى ابن مريم وآتيناه الإنجيل وجعلنا في قلوب الذين اتبعوه رأفة ورهبانية ابتدعوها ما كتبناها عليهم إلا ابتغاء رضوان الله فما رعوها حق رعايتها فآتينا الذين آمنوا منهم أجرهم وكثير منهم فاسقون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وآمنوا برسوله يؤتكم كفلين من رحمته ويجعل لكم نورا تمشون به ويغفر لكم والله غفور رحيم لئلا يعلم أهل الكتاب ألا يقدرون على شيء من فضل الله وأن الفضل بيد الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم.
O mankind, listen well. I may not be with you much longer. The weak among you, feed them on what you eat, dress them as you are dressed. You will meet your God, and he will call you to account for your actions. Let those who are present warn those who are absent. You are all descended from Adam, and the best among you is he who most regards God. Think deeply about what I say. Let all your feuds be abolished. You must know that every Muslim is the brother of every other Muslim, and all Muslims are brothers one of another. Between Muslims there are no races and no tribes. Nor must you take anything from your brother except what is given freely. Do not oppress, and do not be oppressed. O my people, I am but a man. It may be that the angel of death will visit me soon, and death will overtake me. But I have left you a book, revealed by God, the Quran, which is light and guidance.
Sallallahu ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
أمن هذا الذي هو جند لكم ينصركم من دون الرحمن إن الكافرون إلا في غرور أمن هذا الذي يرزقكم إن أمسك رزقه بل لجوا في عتو ونفور أفمن يمشي مكبا على وجهه أهدى أمن يمشي سويا على صراط مستقيم قل هو الذي أنشأكم وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون قل هو الذي ذرأكم في الأرض وإليه تحشرون ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين قل إنما العلم عند الله وإنما أنا نذير مبين فلما رأوه زلفة سيئت وجوه الذين كفروا وقيل هذا الذي كنتم به تدعون قل